Hello and welcome to this episode of Excel Bonanza, your Bonanza for Excel knowledge. This is Abdurrahman Abdu, and in this episode we are going to discuss custom number formatting in Excel. So we're going to discuss custom number formatting in Excel, how to create your own custom number format. We're going to discuss that in detail, and also as a bonus with this video, you're going to be able to get my Excel custom number formatting cheat sheet so that you'll be able to be quickly reminded of what you've learned here on this video without needing to watch the video again. So that's a bit of a time saver there. And you can download this cheat sheet by clicking on the link below in the description and providing your email address. By providing your email address, also you're going to be subscribing to my newsletter where you're going to get useful Excel tips and tricks. And also, you're going to get exclusive discounts to my Excel courses on Udemy and other instructors' courses as well. I would also really appreciate if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can get all the future video updates. I have also created links below in the description so that you can fast forward to different sections of this video if you need to. But I would really recommend that you would watch the whole video. So with that being said, and without further ado, let's get started with custom number formatting in Excel. Okay, so what is custom number formatting? Or probably someone would ask, what is number formatting? So number formatting is basically how the value in your cell looks. So you could write 4,000, okay? The value in this cell is 4,000. However, you can format it to look as $4,000. You can also make it look as 4,000 pounds. The value in the cell is 4,000, but it looks as 4,000 pounds or $4,000. So formatting does not change the value in a cell. It just changes how it looks. Okay, so you need to bear that in mind. Okay. So what is custom number formatting? So custom number formatting is basically tailoring the formatting to get whatever formatting you would like. So to do a customized formatting for your own needs, okay? And you can do that by right-clicking on a cell, clicking on Format Cells, and then going to Custom. So this is actually the custom number formatting option where you could actually type your own customized formatting to tailor the formatting to your needs or to make the number look the way you want it to look. Okay, this will not change the value of the number, but it will just change how it looks. Okay, because people sometimes need the number to look in different ways, okay, according to their needs. So this is actually what we're going to learn on this video. And because this is customized formatting, there are some codes actually. Look at these codes actually. You need to understand how these works, what the pound sign means, what the question mark means. All these codes, you need to understand how they work, okay? And this is what we're going to do on this video. We're going to actually explain everything about custom number formatting, or almost everything about custom number formatting except for formatting dates, because I would actually want to do that on a video by itself for explaining how dates and times work in Excel perhaps. So we're going to explain the different codes that you would want to use in custom number formatting and how we can do custom number formatting and what it's comprised of on this video, but we're not going to explain dates. Okay, so without further ado, let's start that. Okay, so as we can see here, actually a custom number format in Excel would contain 4 sections. The first section is actually going to be explaining how the positive numbers are going to be formatted. And then the second section is going to explain how negative numbers are formatted. And the third section is going to explain how zeros are formatted. Okay, so if you get a 0 on your value, how is that formatted? And then the fourth section is going to explain how text in a cell is formatted. Okay, and these sections are separated by semicolons. Okay, so this is the structure of writing a custom number format in Excel. Okay. There is also one more thing to learn, which is the precedence of each section, okay? So if you put, for example, section 1 only, what happens? If you put section 1 and section 2, what happens. If you put section 1, 2, and 3, what happens? And if you put all the sections, what happens? Okay, so because you can actually have your number formatting done by only specifying section 1. Okay, and this will apply number formatting. You don't have to specify the 4 sections. Of course, the results will vary when you specify only 1 section or 4 sections, but only the first section is mandatory. You need to only specify the first section, but the other sections are optional. Okay, so looking at this map here, okay, basically when you specify only the first section, it will apply to all the sections. Okay, so the same formatting that you specify in section 1 will apply to positive numbers, negative numbers, zeros, and text. Okay, if you specify sections 1 and 2, then section 1, the formatting on section 1 here, is going to apply to positive numbers and zeros and text. And the formatting on section 2 is going to apply to negative numbers. If you specify sections 1, 2, and 3, then the formatting on section 1 will apply to positive numbers and to text, and the formatting on section 2 will apply to negative numbers, and the formatting on section 3 will apply to zeros. If you specify all the 4 sections, then each will apply to its own category. So basically section 1 will apply to positive numbers, section 2 will apply to negative numbers, section 3 or the formatting of section 3 will apply to zeros, and the formatting of section 4 will apply to text. Okay, so this map basically explains the behavior of number formattings if you specify 1 section or 2 sections or 3 or all the 4 sections. Okay, so now let's try to understand the different codes used in Excel's custom number formats. So first of all, there is the word general, and the word general would basically mean that Excel will format the number or that section that you put the word general in. Excel would format it as the general format, okay? And the general format is basically the default format that Excel uses, okay? And you can get it by selecting general from this menu here on the home tab on the ribbon, or you can actually right click and click on format cells and select general. So this is the general number format. The second format code that we're going to speak about here is actually the pound sign, and the pound sign is basically a digit placeholder that represents optional digits, and that means that it does not display extra zeros. And what that means is that if the number contains zeros that do not need to be displayed and they are in the position of the pound sign, they will not be displayed. So for example, if you have a number format that is pound point pound, okay, so pound point pound, that means that the format of the number is going to be, for example, 4.0 if the number is a 4. Okay, so if your number is a 4, it should normally be displayed as 4.0 according to that format code. However, because actually all the digit placeholders are pounds, they are optional digits, okay, and I'm speaking here especially about the digit placeholder that is on the right hand side of the decimal point, okay, and for that digit placeholder, okay, that would have the 0, okay, so if it's 4.0, the digit placeholder on the right hand side of the decimal point would have a 0. Because that digit placeholder is optional, because it's a pound, that means that the 0 is not going to be displayed, because the 0 on the right hand side of the decimal point is optional. It does not need to exist. If the number is 4, then you don't need to type it as 4.0. You can just type it as a 4. But actually, it will be displayed as 4 points, because the decimal point that you put there in your number format is mandatory. It must be displayed. Okay, so it's going to appear as 4 point. However, the 0 on the right hand side of the decimal point will not be displayed. The number or the digit placeholder on the right hand side of the decimal point will be displayed though if it is needed. So for example, if the number is 4.5, we have to display the 0.5 or the 5 after the decimal point, because it needs to be there, or else the number's value will be different, you know. If the number is 4.5, you have to write the 0.5 after the 4, or you have to write the 5 on the right hand side of the decimal point. Okay, so I hope you got the idea. We're gonna have more examples in the future about that, but I hope you got the idea by now. We've got also the 0, which is actually on the other hand, so it's like the opposite of the pound sign. The 0 is a digit placeholder for a forced digit or a mandatory digit, so it will always appear, and this will display insignificant zeros. So on the example we mentioned, when we wrote pound point pound, okay, if you write 0.0, that means that if you've got the number as 4, it will appear as 4.0. Okay, so actually the 0 after the decimal point will appear. The 0 on the right hand side of the decimal point will appear, because it's going to be a forced digit. It's going to be mandatory. Okay, and although in normal life when you write 4, you don't write 4.0, you just write 4. Okay, it will be displayed as 4.0, and we will see that in examples as well. If you don't understand it, don't worry about it. I just want you to bear in mind that when you see a 0, then it's a forced digit. Okay, and there is also the question mark. The question mark is the digit placeholder that reserves a space for insignificant zeros but does not display them. So it basically reserves a space for insignificant zeros. If there are insignificant zeros, it will not display them, but it will reserve a space for them, okay? So we will see that in examples, but just understand that it does not display insignificant zeros, but it will reserve a space for them. It will reserve their space. There is also the @ sign, which is a text placeholder, and we will see that in examples. There's also the period, okay, or the point. It's basically the decimal point. It doesn't do anything except just tell Excel what the location of the decimal point is. Okay, so it tells Excel, put a decimal point here. That's what it does. There is also the comma. The comma that follows a digit placeholder is a thousand separator. Okay, so it's used as a thousand separator if it follows a digit placeholder. But it can also be used to scale a number by 1,000 or 1,000,000, okay, etc., or it can be also 1,000,000,000. And scaling a number means dividing it by 1,000, or dividing it by 1,000,000, or dividing it by 1,000,000,000, okay, so that if you have a cell that contains 4,000,000, you could just make it say 4, and maybe you would have the header for the table say in millions, okay, so it will display just 4. We will see that in examples as well. There is also the backslash, and the backslash displays the character that follows it, and not all the characters need to have a backslash before them. And we will see that as well. We'll see the special characters that do not need to have a backslash before them. There's also the percentage sign, which multiplies the numbers entered in a cell by 100 and displays the percentage sign. And we will see that as well. So it basically formats the number as a percentage. If you put 0.25, you can display as 25%. And it's the same as clicking on the percentage here, but you can actually customize the number more than when you just click on the percentage here. Okay, so the percentage here just has a preset format, but you can actually customize the format and tailor it to your needs. There's also the fraction sign, or actually the forward slash. Okay, so the forward slash can do fractions. Okay, so you can write, for example, 0.25 as 1/4, and you can also write fractions with remainders, like 5/4. You can write it as 1 1/4, for example. Okay, and we will see that in examples as well. There's also the E. It's basically the scientific notation format when you need to write scientific numbers, so 5 times 10 to the power 6, for example. Something like that. We will see that as well in examples. There's also the underscore, which skips the width of the next character and is commonly used in combination with parentheses to add left and right indents. So we will see that as well in examples. And there's also the asterisk, and the asterisk actually repeats the character that follows it until the width of the cell is filled, and is often used in combination with the space character to change alignment, and we will see that as well in examples. And there's also the color. You can actually format the number and color it. Okay, so do some sort of conditional formatting, make the number have a color. Like, for example, positive numbers would have green colors and negative numbers would have red colors. You can do that actually without conditional formatting. You can do it with this feature, which is custom number formatting. Okay, although actually the colors are limited, you're just limited to a bunch of colors, but with conditional formatting you've got a lot more colors, but we will see that as well. So you can actually make different numbers get colored differently. So positive numbers get a color, negative numbers get another color, zeros get another color, and text get a fourth color. Okay, so let's actually see examples of these codes in action. Okay, so let's start actually with one of the easiest things to do with custom number formatting, which is changing the color of your values. Okay, so if you use this number formatting, which is basically the color in square brackets and then the word general, you will actually get different colors for different sections, right? So you can see here that, for example, on section 1, which is for positive, I've given it green. For section 2, which is negative values, I've given it red. For section 3, which is zeros, I've given it magenta. And for section 4, which is text, I've given it a cyan color. So as you can see here, this is the data. Okay, these are actually the numbers that are entered in the cell, and the output is basically the same numbers, but they have the number formatting applied to them. So if I highlight them, right click and click on format cells, you can see here I've got on this custom option, okay, I've got this custom number formatting here, right? This is actually the same formatting that you've got. So putting this formatting will format the numbers this way. Okay, so you can see here that each number gets a different formatting. This number, because it's positive, it gets the green color. This number, because it's negative, it gets the red color. This is a 0, then it gets the magenta. And this is a text, so it gets a cyan color. Okay, and this is actually the list of colors that you can use. Okay, this is why I told you that you're limited, to just 8 colors, but on conditional formatting you could pretty much use any color that you'd like. Okay, so this is simply how you can add color. It's very simple, and note actually that you put the color first in square brackets and then put whatever formatting you'd like. You could put, a formatting other than general. You can put a formatting that has pound signs and zeros and question marks in it and dollar signs if you want. You can do anything you would like, but just put the general because it's very simple. I just wanted to focus on the color in this section. Okay, so now we're going to discuss how we can add a single character before or after the custom number format. Okay, so you can actually type a backslash and then the character, and you can do that before or after the format. And so that single character will be typed before or after the format. So for example, we've got backslash at general or general backslash at. So the first one will actually type the character before the format, and the second one will type the character after the format, as you can see here on the bottom table. However, note that it does not affect the text because we've actually just specified the format for section 1 only, and it's applied it to all sections except for text. If you need to apply it for text, you need to actually specify that explicitly on your format, so to write a format for all the sections. Okay, so if you check one of these tables here on the left, you can see here that the format for only section 1 has been specified, and this is why you don't get one for the text. If you need to have the @ sign before or after the text, you need to specify that on section 4, on the 4th section for text. Okay, so if you need to have it applied to text, you need to explicitly specify the format for the text section. There are also some special characters that do not need a backslash written before them so that you can include them on your number format, such as the $sign, the plus or minus signs, the greater than, less than, and equal signs, the parentheses, the curly brackets, the single quote, and then there's the colon, the tilde, the ampersand, the exclamation mark, and the space. So all these characters do not need a backslash before them. So to have an example here, I'm just going to right click on format cells on this table here on the output column. You can see here I've got a $sign, but I haven't needed to include a backslash before it in order for it to appear on the number format. Okay, so now we're going to speak about adding text to our number format. So to add an entire string to a number, we need to surround the string with double quotes. So for example, we can have the format as general and then units, okay? And that would produce the number and then units. And notice here that we've got a space actually here before units. So it's double quotes, space, units, double quotes, okay, and we put a space before units in order for the number and units to have a space separating them. If you don't need that, then you can just remove the space, but they are actually going to be glued together. The number and units are going to be glued together, okay. And notice here as well in this example that it does not affect text. So it's affected all the number types here, the positive and the negative and the zeros, but it has not affected the text. And to affect the text, you need to actually state the format for it explicitly in its own section, okay? So as you can see here in this example, we've got general unit A, then general unit B, general unit C, general unit D, and we're actually just assigning a certain format to each type or to each section. So here we're assigning unit A to the positive numbers, we're assigning unit B to the negative numbers, we're assigning unit C to the zeros, and we're just assigning unit D to text. And this is why you can see here that the text has appeared. So in order to have that affect your text, you need to actually put all the four sections. Okay guys, so now we're going to speak about the 0 character, which is the digit placeholder for a forced digit. So if you use the format of 0.00, for example, then you're actually forcing a digit on the left hand side of the decimal point, and you're forcing 2 digits on the right hand side of the decimal point. Okay, so as you can see here, if our number is 0, it's going to appear as 0.00 because the digits on the left hand side and the right hand side of the decimal point are put in the format as 0, so they are mandatory. They must appear, okay? So this is why we will have an output of 0.00. If you put 0.423, for example, you've got only 2 digits on the right-hand side of the decimal point that are mandatory. So this is why they will show, but actually you haven't specified anything for the third digit. So this is why it will not show. The value of the number is still the same. It's still 0.423, but Excel will just show you 2 digits on the right hand side of the decimal point. As you can see here, the number is originally 0.423, but it's showing you 0.42. But has the value changed? No, it has not changed. If you write equals this, you should get a true value. Okay, so actually this is a table, so this is why it's just applying the formula to all the rows. Okay, but as you can see here, the values of these 2 cells are equal, but it's just that Excel is just showing you 2 digits only on the right hand side of the decimal point. And also here for this number 4567, it's going to show you as 4567.00 because you've got a forced digit on the left hand side of the decimal point, which is going to show the whole number or the whole integer, and you've got also 2 forced digits on the right hand side of the decimal point. So you're going to see it at 0.00. Although in normal life you don't write it as 4567.00 because if it's just 4567, there's no decimal, there's no fraction, then you just write it 4567. So this is the 0 character. It forces digits on your number format and it displays insignificant zeros. Okay guys, so now we're going to speak about the question mark character, which is a digit placeholder that reserves a space for insignificant zeros but does not display them. Okay, so if we use a format that is question mark, point, question mark, you can see here if we apply that to a 0, it will just display a decimal, okay, because it actually deems the 0 as an insignificant 0, okay, as an optional character. However, if you check the decimal point, okay, I'm just going to zoom on it a bit here. If we check the decimal point, you can see here that it's actually got a character before it, okay, it's a blank character, because it's actually the question mark, the first question mark is reserving the place of the character on the left hand side of the decimal point. And actually there are two characters actually reserved on the right hand side of the decimal point as well. Okay, we can see that more clearly when we check the 0.423 number. You can see here that it's acting as if the 0 on the left hand side of the decimal point is insignificant. Okay, so it's removing it. But at the same time, if you check, it's actually reserving its place. And the decimal point is not totally aligned to the left. It's not the first character on the format that appears. There's actually a blank character here. This is actually the question mark that is reserved for the digit on the left hand side of the decimal point. You can see here that as well on the 4567 number here. You can see here that it's actually putting the 4567 point, and then it's actually reserving the place for the two characters on the right hand side of the comma as well. Okay, so this is the question mark character. Okay, it acts as an optional digit placeholder. However, at the same time, it reserves the space for that digit placeholder. Okay, so digit placeholder is optional. However, its space is reserved. We will see the pound sign. It's optional, but its place is not reserved. Okay, so this is the difference between question mark and the pound sign, and we will see the pound sign next. Okay guys, so now we're going to speak about the pound sign. So the pound sign is a digit placeholder that represents optional digits, and it does not display extra zeros. And that means that if the 0 is not needed, it's not going to be displayed. So as you can see here, for example, for this format that is pound sign, point, pound sign, if we have a 0, we will just have the point, the decimal. By the way, the decimal, when you put it in the number format, it is kind of forced. Okay, so it will appear on the number format. And as you can see here, the point or the decimal is aligned totally to the left. Unlike on the question mark example, when we had a question mark instead of the pound sign, the location of the first question mark was reserved, and the point or the decimal, okay, let me just zoom in here, the decimal was a little bit offset to the right. Okay, but here actually the first pound sign is optional and it is omitted, okay, and its place is not reserved. So that's the difference, you know, the main difference between the question mark and the pound sign, okay, or the hash sign. The same goes here for 0.423. You can see here that the first pound sign on the left hand side of the decimal point, which is here representing the 0, is optional, and this is why the 0 has been omitted, and this is why the number appears as 0.42. And because we're actually specifying here on the format that we only need 2-digit placeholders after the decimal point, the number appears as 0.42 or 0.42 only instead of 0.423. Okay, so we've got only 2 digits on the right hand side of the decimal point because we've only specified 2 digits here, 2-digit placeholders on the right hand side of the decimal point. And here as well on 4567, we do have a decimal point here on the number format, and this is why it appears on the output here, 4567 point. But these 2-digit placeholders on the right hand side of the decimal point are optional. This is why they do not appear. So it just appears as 4567 point, and we do not have any decimal because they are optional. But if this is a proper decimal, like if it has a value after the point, okay, not a 0, has any value 1 2 for example, then the 1 2 will appear, okay, but nothing appears here after the decimal point or on the right hand side of the decimal point because it's not necessary to appear, it's a 0. So that's for the pound sign. Okay guys, so now we're gonna see what the asterisk character does. So the asterisk character repeats the character that follows it until the width of the cell is filled. So as you can see here on this format, which is asterisk at 0. pound, you can see here that for the first number 4567.123, we actually get 4567.12 with actually all the remaining space in the cell filled with the at sign. And actually this remaining space will vary with the width of the cell. So if I increase the width of the cell, you can see here that the at signs, the count of the at signs increases to fill the width of the cell. Okay, so really the count of the at sign or the count of the repeated character will vary with the width of the cell. So here with this format, we actually use the at sign to fill the width of the cell and to have the at sign before the number. Okay, this is why we've written the asterisk at before the number. You can see here also that with the negative numbers, it does the same, and the negative number actually retains its negative sign. However, if we check the format of the cell, you can see here that we've only specified the format for section 1. However, if we specify as well the format for section 2, and you can see here the preview of the format, you can see here that the negative sign has been removed. So if you specify the format for just section 1, negative sign here in this case will be retained. However, in order to remove it, if you want to remove it, because sometimes you'd want to remove the negative sign and maybe give the negative number a different color instead of having a negative sign, then you will need to specify that explicitly on section 2, which is the section that is concerned with negative numbers. Okay, so if you press OK here, you can see here that the negative sign has been removed. Okay, I'm just going to press Ctrl and Z to put it back to what it was. Here for the 0, you can see here that the 2 pound signs here on the right hand side of the decimal point are insignificant, so they are removed, but the point or the decimal remains, and we've got the at signs filling the space of the cell. And you can see here the number of at signs will always vary with the width of the cell. Okay, and you can see here we can do that after a format as well, so we can have some at signs repeat and fill the cell after the format if we put the asterisk at after the format, and you can use any sign other than the at sign as well. So that's it for the asterisk character. Probably you won't use it a lot, but there you go, you know how to use it. Okay guys, so now let's speak about the underscore character, and what it does is that it skips the width of the next character, and it is commonly used in combination with parentheses to add left and right indents respectively. So in order to add a left indent, you would use underscore and then an open parenthesis, and in order to add a right indent or right indentation, you can use the underscore and the closing parentheses. So I'm just going to zoom in here on our example to understand it better. So as you can see here on this format, you can see here that the format for positive numbers has a left indentation, which is by putting an underscore and then an opening parenthesis. And you can see here that we've got a pound, point, pound, and then a right indentation or right indent by an underscore and a closing parenthesis. And we've got also the format for negative numbers, which has just got brackets. So this is why they are going to appear as brackets, because it doesn't have any underscores, so these will not be indentations. They will be just brackets. They will appear as brackets. And as you can see here on the positive number, we have got a left indentation here. Okay, so there's actually a character gap. A character has been skipped here on the left. As you can see here, it's not as close to the border of the cell as the cell in the data column. The cell in the result column, the number is not as close to the left border of the cell as the number on the data column. Okay, this is because there's a character gap right here Okay, and on the negative number, because we haven't put an underscore, so we don't have any indentations. So actually it's appeared as a bracket, as you can see here. So I'm just trying to differentiate for you between having brackets or parentheses with underscores and having brackets or parentheses without underscores. Okay, with underscores you have indentations. Okay, if you put them correctly. This is for the left indentation and this is for the right indentation, but without underscores, you're just going to have them as brackets. So that's it basically. The same rule is applied here for this positive number, the same as applied here on the first cell. The same rule is applied for 0.123, but as you can see here, the pound sign on the left-hand side of the decimal point represents an optional character, so this is why the 0 has been omitted here on the 0.12, and we've got a left indentation, so there's space for 2 characters here, basically, that is blank. Okay, so that's it, guys, for the underscore character, and next we will see the comma. Okay guys, so now we're going to speak about the comma. So a comma can be used as a thousand separator, and it can also be used to scale a number by 1,000 or 1,000,000. Okay, and scaling the number by 1,000 or 1,000,000 technically means dividing it by 1,000 or 1,000,000. Okay, and it can be divided by 1,000,000,000 as well. So we'll see how to do that. But first of all, let's see how it's used as a thousand separator. So it's used as a thousand separator if it's followed by digit placeholders. And by digit placeholders, I mean a pound sign or a 0 or a question mark. All these are digit placeholders. So as you can see here on this number format, for example, a pound, comma, pound, pound, and then a dollar sign, this will actually have the comma as a thousand separator. Okay, so it will basically have the comma in the number. Okay, so if you enter 4,000, you can see here it's going to be 4 and then comma and then triple zeros and then the dollar sign. So it's used as a thousand separator this way. It works for millions as well. So as you can see here, this value is 1,000,000. So you can see here we've got comma separating the millions and then another comma separating the thousands. So it basically makes your number more readable this way, right? Because if you have a number with a lot of zeros without commas, it will be more difficult to read than if it has commas. If it has commas, it would be easier to read, right? Okay, but the number itself is written as normal. So if you write 4,000 in the cell, you don't write 4 comma and then triple zeros. You write 4,000, okay? And then the number formatting that you apply to the cell takes care of how the number looks and makes it look like that. So this is how it's used as a thousand separator. Okay, so let's see how it can be used for scaling or dividing a number by 1,000 or 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000. So we can use it this way if we do not follow it by a digit placeholder, and by a digit placeholder I mean a pound or a 0 or a question mark. So for this number format, for example, we've got a pound and then a comma, okay, and doesn't have any digit placeholders after it. It doesn't have any commas or question mark or zeros, okay? It has a K because I want to display the number having a K after it. So for example, if it's 4,000, it would appear as 4K because K in technical terms means 1,000. And you can see here also this number is a million, okay? So I want to display it as a 1,000K. So actually having one comma in the number without having any digit placeholders after it will divide the number by 1,000. Okay, so this is what I want to convey here. Having one comma in the number format without having any digit placeholder after it will divide the number by 1,000. If you have 2 commas, then it will divide it by another 1,000. Okay, so 1,000 and then 1,000, so it's a division by 1,000,000. Okay, so for example, this number format here, 0.0, that means it will actually display insignificant zeros, will divide the number by 1,000,000, and then we've got an M at the end. Okay, so we're adding a text string to it, which is just an M, so that we'll be able to have the number in millions. So as you can see here, this number is 4,000,000. It will appear as 4.0 million. This number is 1,000,000. It would appear as 1.0 M. Okay, and this number is 500,000. It will appear as 0.5 M. So if you want to divide the number by a million, okay, if your numbers are in millions and you just want to have them simplified, just want to scale the numbers, then you can put two commas without any digit placeholders after them. If your numbers are in billions, then you can put three commas. So this is how you can use the comma for scaling or dividing a number, and this can be useful, for example, if your numbers are big like that in thousands and you want to display them as K's. So as you can see here in this data table that is plotted on this chart, our numbers are in thousands. Okay, so I want to display them in K's, and I've just put here this format here, which is £.00. So this means it will still display insignificant zeros after the decimal point. So this will display the number in K's with decimals. If you don't want the decimals, then you can just make them optional by replacing the zeros with pound signs, as we've discussed before. Okay, but this is an example of how you can benefit from that, from the comma, as a tool to actually scale your number. Okay? Okay guys, so now we're going to speak about scientific numbers, e-notations and exponential values, how to create custom number formats for that. So the custom number formats that you would create for scientific notations in Excel would consist of a digit placeholder before the E, which could be a pound sign, could be a question mark, could be a zero, and then the E itself, and then a digit placeholder after the E, which also this could be a pound sign, a zero, or a question mark, any of the digit placeholders. So for example, in this table here, we've got the format applied as pound sign E plus and then a pound sign. And by the way, when you write E plus, this will be applied to positive powers of 10 and negative powers as well. So for example, on this number 1.5 e negative 8, so it's 1.5 times 10 to the power negative 8. The result will be 2e negative 8. Well, the reason it's 2 and not 1.5 is that because you've got only one digit placeholder and it's optional before the e, so Excel can only show one digit. It cannot show 1.5. It can only show just one digit. Okay, so it's shown at 2 because it's approximated the 1.5, because this is the closest thing to 1.5, and Excel is restricted to displaying only one digit. So this is why it's appeared as 2, and then e to the power negative 8, not negative 0.8, because also Excel is restrained here or restricted to displaying one digit placeholder after the E, because you put only one pound sign. Here as well as 3.45 times 10 to the power positive 8 is 3 times 10 to the power 8, because Excel approximated the value, or actually rounded it down, okay, because if the value is actually 0.5 or more, it's rounded up, and if the value is less than 0.5, then it's rounded down. So Excel here has rounded the value of the digit placeholder before the E, it's rounded it down to 3, so from 3.45 to 3, okay, and the plus 0.8 here, it can only display only one digit after the E plus, so this is why it's displayed only just an 8 without a 0.8, okay, and the same applies for the rest of the numbers. The 1 is actually 1 times 10 to the power 0, okay, but because you've actually put here an E plus, Excel is restricted to showing the E itself, and although 1 is 1 times 10 to the power 0, and technically you can remove the 10 to the power 0, the E plus being in the custom number format, okay, makes Excel must show the E even it's E to the power 0. So, normally in real life, if you've got a value that is 1 times 10 to the power 0 is just 1. Anything times 10 to the power 0 is just that thing, right? Because 10 to the power 0 is just a 1. Okay? And we've got here 1.28, so Excel rounded it down to 1 times 10 to the power 0 still, because you've asked Excel in the custom number format to display the E. Okay, and you've got a 0 here, so 0 times 10 to the power 0. Okay, and in this format here, you can see here it's 0.00, so the zeros are actually mandatory digit placeholders. Okay, they are forced digit placeholders, so Excel must show them. So this is why 1.5 times 10 to the power a negative 0.8 is actually displayed as 1.5 times 10 to the power negative 0.8, because the digits here are forced. Okay, 0.00. Digits before the E notation and the digits after the E notation are all forced digits, so they must appear. Okay, 3.45 times 10 to the power positive 8 here. It appears as 3.45 times 10 to the power positive 8, and it's positive 0.8, although normally in real life, if you want to write 10 to the power 8, you don't write it as 10 to the power 0.8. You just write it as 10 to the power 8. But because the digits after the E notation are forced digits, Excel still will show the unnecessary zeros, which is the 0 before the 8. So it's shown it as 0.8 here. The 1 is 1.00 times 10 to the power 00. It's showing unnecessary zeros because you're forcing it to show these zeros, okay, by putting 0-digit placeholders. 1.28 here is 1.28 times 10 to the power plus 00, or e to the e plus 00. The 0 is 0 times e plus 00 as well. Okay, so that's it for scientific numbers. Okay guys, so that's it for custom number formatting in Excel. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the video, press the like button and share it with your friends. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have any questions, please leave them in a comment below. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next